Alabama beat Texas A&M yesterday. I didn't think they would. I did not think they would. I thought somehow Texas A&M was going to find a way to come out on top here. I picked A&M, and I told you exactly why last week. And here's what's funny. I was sitting in Dallas Love Airport yesterday watching this game, and a lot of what I thought would happen happened. Bama could not run the ball. Thought that would happen. The atmosphere and the moment I thought would shake Alabama a little bit. They have not been a solid outfit on the road. They had 14 penalties yesterday. I thought with that happening, it would set Jalen Milroe up to have to throw the ball to win the game. The only difference between what I thought would happen and what ended up happening is I wasn't sure they'd pull it off. They did. Jalen Milroe, 21 of 33, 321 through the air. Welcome to the party, Jermaine Burton, in the process. 3 touchdowns. Milroe has a career high through the air. And that offensive line, as maligned as it's been, and as imperfect a unit as they were yesterday, there were spots, and they picked their spots, where they gave him enough time. And we did say on the show last week, you throw the ball 30 or more yards downfield, if you got time, A&M can be had. I just didn't think they'd have time. And he had time enough. Alabama's defense is nasty. I said I thought this was going to be the toughest matchup they had the rest of the way. It was an absolute dogfight, total knife fight yesterday. If you don't believe me, I know the AP is going to tell you this wasn't even a ranked opponent. And for all I know, A&M's going to fall off the face of the earth the rest of the way. And come November, you'll look at Bama's resume and no one will call this a quality win. That right there yesterday was like crawling over broken glass to try and get a win. And there were probably times if you're watching it in the first half, you don't think they're going to get it done. And then you watch them get it done, and it's imperfect, and it's ugly at times. But their defense got their teeth around the throat of A&M in the second half, and they took over. A&M had 103 total yards in the second half. I don't know how you attribute this. You have got to take every cap in your room off to Kevin Steele. Kevin Steele has been a godsend. Whatever he's done, whatever he's injected into some of the same guys Pete Golding coached last year has been phenomenal. Just forget schematics. We're not going to pull the grease board down today. Forget all that. Just look at the effort they play with. Look at the intensity Alabama plays with defensively. Dude, there are times where they got 2 or 3 guys. I think every offensive lineman for A&M gave up a sack. I want to say I saw that stat. Alabama's defense was on fire yesterday. They give up. They bust every now and then on the back end. Malachi Moore got hurt yesterday. Really interested to see what they look like maybe with him out for a couple of weeks. But, guys up front like Tim Keenan, just guys from recruiting a few years back that you may or may not remember, all of a sudden they're living in the backfield. Dallas Turner's playing out of his mind right now. You know, might want to watch him when you pick the ball off behind the play. Might get you in a little trouble there, but Alabama can win games defensively. Ohio State can win games defensively right now. Clemson, if they need to, can win games defensively. It's just a funny time in the sport where the pendulum has swung back a little bit. So I'll talk more about Bama in a second. What do we think about Jimbo Fisher? What do we think about Texas A&M? This is where you're going to have a lot of irresponsible statements made this week, I think. Some of them are going to come from College Station. Many, many more of them are going to come from outside College Station. Here's what it's really easy to do. It's really easy to say, all right, well, Jimbo choked. He horribly mismanaged the game, which he did, by the way. So I don't disagree with you there at all. Just egregious clock management. Amazing. I said in line to get on an airplane, I'm watching on my phone, and I said, "What are you doing?" The lady next to me thought I was talking to her, and I had to show her the phone. And she nodded as if to say, "Oh, you're probably talking about Jimbo Fisher, aren't you?" Like she had heard that somewhere before. Yeah, I was talking about Jimbo Fisher. Like, all that understood. I grant you all that. It's going to be really easy to say, get Jimbo out of here. No, they're going to have to fire him at the end of the year. No, they're not going to have to fire him at the end of the year. It's so easy for someone's mouth to write a $75 million buyout check they themselves don't have to cash. No, it's not just, all right, beat Bama and you're the toast of the town. Don't beat them, you're out of here. That's not the way this works. I don't know how it's going to work the rest of the way. They could lose 3 more games for all I know, and he does get fired. I am talking right here. It is 7:23 on Sunday, October 8th. It is not time to pull the plug on Jimbo Fisher. Having said that, this is where the nuance comes into the discussion. This isn't good enough. This isn't okay. You should, in year one, you should never make some of the errors that they made yesterday, because a lot of that's not on the players. Like, the players have a hard enough time going out there and executing. When you handcuff them because of the way you mismanage things, you can't have that. You can't have that. And I don't know who in the world needs to have that responsibility delegated to them on that sideline, but it's not Jimbo Fisher. So credit him for making some moves offensively. I think in terms of game management, there are probably moves that still need to be made there. But outside of that, okay, just hear me out for a second. There's one extreme where you're the best coach in the world. There's another extreme where you're garbage and you need to be fired. The reality most of the time, 99% of the time, is somewhere in between that. And I don't think it's any different here. They made some adjustments this past spring and summer. They probably need to make more. It's a game of inches. One bounce here or there. They win this game yesterday. They're going to be loaded again next year. A lot of that class that finished number 1 in recruiting will be juniors next year. Connor Wigman will probably be back. Yes, please remember they were without their starting quarterback yesterday. And they'll be a good team next year. I do believe in windows in this sport. And here's the shame of it. This was probably set up to be a year that was advantageous for A&M. If they can thread the needle here, if they can beat Alabama, if they can beat Miami, which they didn't do and didn't afford themselves any luxury of wiggle room here, had they been able to do that, who knows, man? A&M gets in the playoff. They would have had one of, if not the best rosters in the playoff. They are looking around the landscape, and who's unbeatable right now? Nobody. So I'm not going to tell you A&M could never make the playoff or win a title, but I will say this, in a window, in a sport of windows, this was a prime opportunity for them, and they threw it away. They threw it away. They threw it away against Miami. In a lot of ways, they threw it away yesterday against Alabama. I'm not here to sugarcoat that. I'm also not here to tell you because of that, it's time to pull the plug on Jimbo Fisher. I just think there's some in-between room. I know that won't get us a lot of clicks because that's not sexy, but that's where my mind is on Jimbo Fisher. I will say this once more. As I picked against Bama last week, I said, you better kill Bama when you had the chance. You didn't kill Alabama when you had the chance. And now what you have is you got a quarterback finding himself. Now what you have is an offensive coordinator learning to call plays around the strengths of that quarterback in Jalen Milroe. Now what you have is a defense that's gotten a taste for blood and has the ability to take over games. You got one of the most assassin-like field goal kickers in college football. And yes, in games where Alabama plays and they're this close, I do tout special teams. And yes, knowing the history of this program, I do tout special teams whenever possible. They got past the most physical hurdle remaining on their schedule yesterday. I think, including the Iron Bowl. They got past the most hostile environment combined with strongest opponent they'll play the rest of the year. You should have gotten them. They won't lose another game the rest of the year until possibly Atlanta. That's what I believe now about that team. I thought yesterday was, in a lot of ways, a final exam for them. Sounds stupid because they still play Tennessee, they still play LSU, they play Kentucky, they play Auburn. I know all that. They play Arkansas this week. They're no gimmies. When you're not as explosive as they used to be offensively, there are no gimmies. I know that. I'm just telling you what I think. I think they just hit the crest, and now there'll be a little downhill momentum with that team. Banged up, need to get to the bye week. I don't think they'll lose the rest of the way. I think yesterday was your shot to get them. And now you'll probably have to count on Georgia to get them.